Good morning. I will be reading from Mark, chapter 1, verses 40 to 44. A man with leprosy came to him and begged him on his knees, "If you are willing, you can make me clean." Jesus was indignant. He reached out his hand and touched the man. "I am willing," he said. "Be clean." Immediately the leprosy left him and he was cleansed. Jesus sent him away at once with a strong warning. "See that you don't tell this to anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer the sacrifices that Moses commanded for you for your cleansing as a testimony to them." May God add his blessing to his reading of his word.
Good morning. That was pathetic. Good morning. You're all here. Good. You're all with me. It's good to be back. It's good to see all of you again. Kimberly and I always love coming back to Good Tree and to seeing everyone. And one of the things that it's been about a year since we've been back, I think, is there's lots of folks in this church that are getting taller, growing up, and becoming young people and young adults. And it's just amazing to see as God takes everyone through life, and life just happens, and people mature and grow up, and they walk with the Lord through that. And so a church full of children and young people who are growing up is a healthy, vibrant church, and I see that here today again. So bless you for that, and continue on the path that God has for you. We're going to look at this. There's just 4 or 5 verses here this morning, but I work as I continue to work with the military, and the military sends me around. And when I'm not in Calgary, I usually dial into a church, actually a church in London, England. I watch this church consistently. It's the Alpha Church, the Holy Trinity Brompton in London. And often they will have people that come up and give a short testimony of what the Alpha Course has done. And the Alpha Course, there's nothing special about the Alpha Course per se. It's a course that introduces people to the truths of Jesus. But I'm always moved when I hear the story of someone who was here and met Jesus, and now they're over here. And I'm not sure whether you're that way as well, but isn't there something powerful about someone's story? When I was in church ministry for a long time, 35 years pastoring, in the church, often I would talk to people about Christ, not in front of people per se, although that was also true because that's part of what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to teach the Word. But often in my office, I would have conversations with people about theological things, about truths, which are very important. But now that I'm not pastoring, well, I guess I kind of am. I have a parish of a couple hundred people, but they work at an army headquarters rather than we're in a church together. My conversations have far more to do about story than anything else. People ask me questions about spiritual things, and they tell me their story, and I tell them my story. And there's something very powerful about story. I want to begin with this question because this is kind of where we're going. If you hit the next slide, please, thank you. The question is this: why do you tell others about Jesus? I want you to think about that for a minute. Why do you tell others about Jesus? There can be a number of reasons. Sometimes we feel obligated, like we are supposed to tell people about Jesus. Sometimes we feel like this is exactly what they need in this moment, and so I want you to know about Jesus. But as you tell others, how do you tell them? Do you talk about the truths of Christ? And when you do you interweave it into your story? Because story, again, is so important. And what we're looking at this morning is we're looking at the story of a man that is in the Scriptures. This is his story of where he finds himself, and where, when he meets Jesus, his story is completely changed and he becomes someone else. All right? We just heard the story. I'm going to go through it again. But let's begin. There was a man covered, the Bible says, with leprosy. By the way, this is also in Luke chapter 5. Mark chapter 1, Luke chapter 5. Covered in leprosy, and he came and he knelt in front of Jesus. We just read this, begging to be healed. "If you are willing, you can heal me and make me clean," the man said. and moved with compassion. I know some of the scriptures, we just heard the scripture, Jesus was actually angry. He was moved with compassion. Jesus reached out and he touched him and he said, I am willing. I am willing. Be healed. And instantly the leprosy disappeared and the man was healed. And then Jesus gives this interesting kind of an aside. There's always something where you kind of go, this is interesting. Then Jesus sent him on his way with a stern warning. Don't tell anyone about this. Instead, go to the priest and let him examine you. Take along the required offering of the law of Moses for those who have been healed of leprosy. This will be a public testimony that you have been cleansed, that you've been cleansed. But, notice, the man went and he told his story. The man went and spread the word, proclaiming to everyone what had happened. And as a result, large crowds soon surrounded Jesus, and he couldn't publicly enter the town anywhere. He had to stay out in secluded places. But the people from everywhere kept coming out to see him. So we have this story of this man. Now, let's begin. There's a man in Luke chapter 5 adds the word, he was covered with leprosy. In other words, he had had leprosy for a while. And not to spend a lot of time on it, but just to get us all into the context. Leprosy was a death sentence in those days. It still is for other parts of the world today. Literally, you were a dead person walking. It was a highly infectious, incurable disease. Those of you in the medical field know more about it than me, but physically, there were some things that were going on in your body, and it affected all of your body. It usually began with fatigue and pain in the joints. And scaly spots develop on the skin as the disease progresses. And if you have leprosy, your body is soon covered with these pus-filled sores, and you get an idea of what someone is going through. And because, of course, it's you know that this is beginning to happen to you, and you know what the end state is, of course, you will begin to have panic in your life. You will be highly anxious. You will be panicking. You will know that your life has taken a turn, and it is going in a direction that is only going to lead to misery and to pain and to death and to social isolation. I was told, I was reading some more on leprosy. It says, the appearance of the face is altered because of what's going on, so that the sufferer comes to resemble a lion. Interesting. Sores grow on your vocal cords so that you speak in a raspy voice. And because your body is in a state of living decomposition, you begin to smell bad. You ever been around an animal that has died? I remember we had mice in our attic when we lived on Vancouver Island. And suddenly, you know, we're downstairs and I had an attic, and you could smell something bad, right? And so Kimberly sent me upstairs into the attic. That was a joy. Let me tell you what I found up there. It was awful. Think about that, only it's you. You haven't died yet, but you begin to smell like you've died. Leprosy attacks the nervous system, comprising the body's ability to feel pain, numbing the body, removing the warning system to protect itself. And you'll see here a guy named Alan Carr has said this: the leper might step on a stone or a thorn and injure his foot and be totally unaware that there was a problem. And so infection would set in, and eventually the injured foot might just fall off. The leper might wash his face, sending scalding water on himself and blinding himself. He may reach into the fire to pick up a piece of food, not realizing how badly he had been burned. And then this is, it's disgusting when you read this. Rats and other vermin would often chew on sleeping lepers, removing their fingers and toes, and because the leper could not feel their bite, they wouldn't fight them off. One doctor in a third world nation would often send a cat home with his leprous patients after he performed surgery on them. And so leprosy was this terrible disease. I remember a terrible joke, but these junior high jokes. What happened at the leper hockey game? There was a face-off in the corner. Like terrible things. We joke about it now, but this was a death sentence on someone, and this would happen for years until someone died. And what was the cure? There was no cure, and so there was obviously social isolation because it was an infectious disease. Often these people were fed by their family until the family gave up because they couldn't approach them anymore in a safe way, and they literally had a funeral service for the living victim, and they left them to their fate. If you had leprosy back in Jesus' day, you would tear your garments and warn people of your condition. You would have to yell unclean as anyone approached you. And of course, if you didn't have leprosy, you would stay a long ways away, a safe distance. We just went through COVID 5 years ago with social isolation. This was social isolation on steroids because of the fear of leprosy. And then attached to that was also a religious isolation as well, because you certainly couldn't worship the way we're worshiping today, could you? You would have to stay, and often lepers would, we read about this in other parts of the scriptures, leprous people would rely on each other. They would live much as in a different way some of the homeless people in our cities live, because they would rely on each other. They would band together because that's how they would survive, and they would care for each other until one another died. And so they were literally dead people walking. I was thinking of a picture, and I mean, I've never watched, anyone watched the Living Dead TV show or anything like that? Maybe some of you might not be brave enough to put up your hand, but it's like zombies. Living Dead is a zombie show, I think. And it's one of those things where, there's the people that aren't zombies and the people that are the Walking Dead people, and if you hit them right, their body explodes and things like that. That was a little bit what leprosy might look like. It was a highly infectious, incurable disease. It left a person physically isolated from family and friends and home and career. It didn't matter how smart you were. It didn't matter how wealthy you were. It didn't matter about the family you came from. You were isolated. Leviticus chapter 13, won't read the whole thing, but the second paragraph, this is the instructions. Those who suffer from serious skin disease, i.e. leprosy, must tear their clothing and leave their hair uncombed. Be hard for me, but for someone who had that, that'd be much easier. They must cover their mouth and call out, unclean, unclean, and as long as the serious disease lasts, they will be ceremonially unclean. And they must live in isolation in their place outside the camp. You were no longer a part of the community in which you'd grown up. It also left a person, because of that, religiously cut off from worship and judged to be under a curse. And we find stories of that. We find that King Uzziah, in his pridefulness, was struck with leprosy. We find that Miriam, when she criticized Moses in Numbers chapter 12, the Lord struck her as well with leprosy. And so it left a person helpless and vulnerable and often bitter. God, what is going on? Why me? How could this happen to me? I'm confused. And then finally living a death sentence every day for the rest of their life. They were physically cut off from their former life. They were spiritually removed from their community. They were suspected of having a major sin problem. So maybe it is your fault. What have you done that you're not telling us about? There has to be a reason why this happened to you. And think about this for a minute. You couldn't go home. You can't associate with your family or friends anymore. You can't come and seek God in worship with the community. You're out of a job, and you can't even beg because people can't come near you and you can't come near to them. You have to actually call out and scream out, "Get away from me. I'm unclean," if anyone comes near you. The only thing waiting for you that is not far away is death. And so this is the man covered in leprosy. So this has been going on for some time, who comes and kneels in front of Jesus. He came and knelt in front of Jesus. Now, the man came to Jesus. He probably would have had to have come to Jesus yelling, "Unclean, unclean." So get a picture of Jesus with the crowd of people around him, and suddenly you hear this, "Unclean, unclean." And everyone sees a leper coming towards Jesus, and what does the crowd do? Absolutely. The crowd backs off, runs away, probably starts screaming at him, maybe starts throwing rocks, because that's what you're supposed to do. If a leper begins to get close and he's violating the terms of the social understanding in the law, you are actually supposed to throw rocks at the person to keep them away. 5 meters downwind, 30 meters upwind, a long ways away for your own safety. So here's this man who is violating the law. So everyone is probably angry, as well as fearful, as well as confused. And they watch Jesus as he stands there while all the rest of them are backing off. thinking, man, when this is over, we're going to take care of that guy for good. Can you think of the courage of this man for a moment? Stop and consider both how courageous he was and how desperate he was. He was risking stoning, humiliation, and death. So why does he do it? Because he's got nothing else. Have you ever been in a place in life where there is nothing else? You are at a point in your life where it's over. There's no way out. At least it doesn't look like there is. You're at a wall on 3 sides and you can't go back. You're at the edge of a cliff and there's nothing to do but jump. You have no other place to go. You see, the man knows that he's already dead. You ever felt like that? I'm alive, but I'm already dead. Maybe not physically, but I'm dead socially. I'm dead professionally. I'm dead relationally. I'm dead spiritually. Even God wouldn't want me if he ever did. He looks and he smells and he sounds like a dead man walking. The sand in his hourglass has literally run out, and he's at a point where he says, you know what, I'm going to die anyways, so let's just get it over with. Unless this man named Jesus can possibly help me. He comes to Jesus and he kneels in front of him, and he says this, if you are willing, here's his hope. This is the only hope he has. If you are willing. Can you imagine how he felt when he said those words? If you are willing, the desperation, you can heal me and make me clean. I believe you can do it if you are willing. You see, he has no doubt that Jesus can heal him. He desperately wants that and needs that. His only question is, does God want to heal me? Does this man who claims to be God want to heal me? I'm a disgusting human being. Nobody wants to be near me. There's nothing for me anymore. Only God can help me now, but will he? Really, what he's asking is this, God, do you really care? Do you really care? Have you ever asked that question? I've asked that question. God, do you really care? I've asked it about others, but I've asked it about me. God, do you really care? Don't you see what's going on right now? Do you really care? That's where this man is. A guy named Ed Welch put it this way. Your suffering is a great enticement to Satan. He and his anti-God federation are irresistibly attracted to persistent pain. Pain of all types, not just physical. Emotional, mental, spiritual. Satan is savvy enough to know that his lies are less effective during prosperity. So he waits until life is hard and we are more vulnerable, though he has plenty of weapons for our good times as well, which is absolutely true. Then when he suggests that God does not love us, he suddenly sounds compelling. God doesn't really love you. If God cared, and then you can fill in the blank, right? If God cared, this wouldn't be going on. Does God love me? Am I suffering because I've done something to incur his displeasure? These thoughts can drift into questions about God himself. Is he good? Does he hear? Does he care? Remember about 15 years ago, we just moved to Calgary, and this is a silly one about does God care, or what's going on. Remember, I was out on a motorcycle trip with my brother-in-law. We went into Montana for the day, cycled around, and we came back across the border, got through the border, and we went to fill up with gas in Fort Steele. So we're making this round trip for we thought it was an 8-hour trip. It ended up being a 22-hour trip. Halfway through the trip, my brother-in-law, who planned the trip, went, I think I might have miscalculated. Yeah, he miscalculated. But part of the miscalculation was my fault because we got to Fort Steele to fill up with gas, and I pulled out where my wallet was supposed to be out of my backpack, and then I realized that somewhere between Montana and Fort Steele, I'd left my backpack somewhere. And the only reason we got through the border is because I had my passport in my pocket. Now, why I didn't realize that, that's another story. Kimberly can tell you why I didn't realize that. It says about me. But I realized that I'd probably left my backpack at the gas station in Montana. And so we went back to the border. And we called the station. The backpack was gone. I found out later that within half an hour of me leaving my backpack at the gas station, people were trying to use my Visa card to buy things. So obviously, it was gone. But as my brother-in-law filled up my gas tank and we're riding back to Calgary, we'd been in Calgary about, I don't know, better part of 8 months. And we hadn't found a church yet, and we hadn't got into a Christian community, and I hadn't been tithing, hadn't given God a cent. And I remember riding, and I'm going, yeah, you know what, I haven't tithed, and that's why God is getting me today. This is a punishment for my lack of faith. I mean, I'm a minister. I'm a Christian minister, and I have not been, and I started running this reel through my mind. Did my not giving for 8 months change how God felt about me? I don't think so. Had his love been abandoned from me? No. Had he not blessed me in 1,000 other ways every day? Yes. But you see what happens when your mind begins to go, yes, God is a God that loves to punish and is always watching, and his mercy is attached to my performance. And so here we have this man. I don't know why this is happening to me, but God, I'm standing in front of you, and what I'm really asking is this: do you care? Do you see? Do you understand? Are you compassionate? Will you help me? It's not just us in this room that ask those questions occasionally. There's a world that is asking that question every day. You work with them. You live beside them. So do I. They're our friends. Some of them are our family. Asking the question, God, who are you? If you really exist, do you care? I have a friend up in Yellowknife where I've been. She is she's a military police officer up there, and she has no faith. She calls herself an atheist. She jokes with me. We have a good relationship, and she talks about how she talks about me and my imaginary friend. Okay, and that's how she relates. That's what she says to God. That's how she describes God to me. And she doesn't do it to mock me. She does it. It's part of our relationship, and I really love this young gal. She's going through a really hard time. Some things are going on in her life, have been for a while, right? And I love to approach her and I say, hey, by the way, I talked to my imaginary friend for you yesterday, you know, and she came to me about a month ago when I was up there. And things are rough. She was in tears, you know, and she didn't ask me for prayer. I assured her that I was talking to God in the way she might understand him, but the way I understand him. But she didn't tell me not to. She didn't tell me that was a waste of time. And you see, I think she's far closer to God than many people are. And the things that she is going through, if she could probably ask a question about God, if she did decide that she was going to take a chance on seeing whether he existed, right now her question would be, God, do you care? Do you care about me? And you see, that's where this man is. And what I love about this story is it says, moved with compassion. What kind of compassion did Jesus have? He had compassion for the man. In fact, the other scripture, Jesus was angry. Was he angry at the man? No. Jesus wasn't angry at the man. Jesus was angry at the context of all that he saw. And yes, I mean, the man needed to isolate himself. It was a contagious disease that would spread through an entire population. There had to be what there was in terms of living outside the camp and those things. But the heart of God is broken over this, obviously. The social isolation, the spiritual isolation, the family relationships that are severed, the questioning about a curse on someone's life and what they may have done wrong, and on and on. I can just see Jesus going, this is not what I created everything for. And so he has compassion. And he says, be healed. Notice that. And instantly, I love what the Bible says. And Mark is one of those books. It's an action book, the Gospel of Mark. Instantly, the leprosy disappeared, and the man was healed. Now that's pretty incredible, isn't it? There is no doubt that a miracle took place. Instantly, the man looked different. He walked different. He talked different. He smelled different. It was different right away. Jesus touched the man. I can imagine the gasp from the crowd when Jesus touched a man who had probably not been touched for a long, long time. It's a beautiful picture, isn't it? It's this picture of the compassion of God going straight to where it needs to go. Reminds me of this song. I think it's an old Gaither song, isn't it? He touched me and made me whole. Beautiful, beautiful song. The man experienced the touch of God. That's his story. That's his story. And Jesus says, I don't want you to tell anyone about this. I want you to go to the priest, and I want you to bring your offering, because the man still had some work to do. He was healed, but he was not a part of the community again, because in order to be proven that he was well again, and he was, he needed to bring an offering to the priest, and the priest would examine him and say, oh, no leprosy here, welcome back. You are now a part of everything again. It's all restored to you. His life was never the same. It was never the same again. So, let's go ask this question again. Next slide, if you would, please. Why do you tell others about Jesus? That's where we started. I would like to think, for all of us, it's because when the Lord touches you with his love and compassion, you simply can't keep it to yourself. Jesus said, don't tell anyone. Do you think Jesus was mad that he told people? I don't think so. Okay. In fact, in Luke, it's a little more gentle in Luke, but I think, Jesus was, who knows, Jesus might have even been not testing in a bad way, but putting out a bit of a challenge. Don't tell anyone about this. And the guy would you say, yeah, nothing really happened to me, or actually, I can't tell you what happened to me. You would be the best evangelist for Jesus in the entire surrounding area. And whether you told anyone or not, word would get out that you were no longer the same, that God had touched your life. The man went and spread the word, proclaiming to everyone what had happened. And the crowds, they built, and that's what we kind of read into the story. Jesus said, don't tell anyone, or we're going to get overwhelmed here. Guess what? Jesus could handle the overwhelming. I mean, we get into the next stories where, he has to go to a place, there's thousands of people coming to them, and then he feeds them all, and they follow him again. Like wherever he went, he attracted these crowds. But why do you tell others about Jesus? The best way to tell someone else about Christ is to tell them your story. And we all have one. And you may not have a story of the leper, all right? And my encouragement would be, if you don't have the leper story, get down on your knees, thank the Lord that you don't have the leper story, that your story is maybe more, in your imagination, mundane, more simple, less painful. But we all have a story, every single one of us. And what God wants from us is to simply tell others our story. Our story. I think the difference between religion and real living faith is story. I think it's story. You see, we can come and worship here and we can learn all the correct things about God, and teaching good, solid, foundational God understanding, which is what we do with our kids downstairs, which is what happened to many of us growing up, which is what good preaching should do Sunday after Sunday. All of that is absolutely necessary, and it's bedrock goodness for people who follow Jesus. But the real power in our walk with Christ is our story. And the real power that changes the people that live amongst us and that work with us, and that we encounter every day, is our story. So what's your story? I want you to think about that for a minute. What's your story? We all have one. We have good parts of our story. We have challenging parts of our story. We have parts of our story that we don't even want anyone else to know. Our stories are broad, and God knows every single moment of our story, and He wants to be a part of every single moment, and He wants us to tell others about our story. So, last slide is this. How has Jesus touched you? How has He touched you? I'd love for you to just consider. The Lord touched me when? And you fill in the blank. When has God touched you recently? The Lord touched me when? Then you begin to tell your story. Or, I am no longer the same because I met God and He met me. It's a wonderful introduction into telling someone why you are no longer the same. Why? Because God touched you. This man was we hear nothing more about him. He was no longer the same. Everything changed. And we do that because in Ephesians 2 it says this: God can point to us in all future ages as examples of the incredible wealth of His grace and kindness towards us, as shown in all He has done for us who are united with Christ Jesus. You see, in the end, our stories, they don't reflect us. They reflect the change that has happened. Why? Because we have this incredible God who does incredible things in the people who approach Him and say, God, I want to know You. I want to be touched by You. I'm working with a friend of mine right now. He's left the military. He's struggling with addiction. He was struggling a while ago before he left the Army. I gave him my number and I said, if you're struggling and you need to talk to someone, give me a call. And a number of months ago, he gave me a call. And when he called, I could tell from his voice, from how he was talking to me, that the addiction had overtaken him. And so I said, give me half an hour, I'll be there. And I went over to see him and his partner, and we sat down. And long story short, I just said, listen, we all are struggling with something all the time. So let's just get that over with right away. Okay? We all struggle with something. We're all facing some sort of thing in life that's going to try to destroy us. This is what's trying to destroy you. And we talked about faith a little bit, and we talked about some practical things. And I've been phoning him. For the first couple of months, I phoned him every day because that's what he needed. But as he's going down a path that is bringing him to recovery from his addiction. And it's not a straight line because it rarely is. He's getting in touch. He's in the program now as with God as he understands him. Okay, and the third step and the 12 steps. The first step is my life's out of control. It's insanity. Second step is I realize that I have no power to break addiction, but that God can possibly do that. So third step, I turn my life over to God as I understand him. He's on this journey. He's on this journey. Your story is telling others about God as you understand him. Now, we have a name for that God, don't we? What's his name? What's his name? Jesus Christ. Okay? And it's my joy with him to simply say, we are fellow human beings on this journey. So let's walk together. And he's walking with people in the program that are helping him, but I haven't given up on my walk with him. I've not given up. I haven't left him, is what I mean to say. And I'm at the point now, he's at the point now where he's understanding God, where I'm beginning to give him books that'll help him in his understanding of God. But can I just share for a moment? The books that I've given him right now are not theological. I'm giving him books about story. I'm giving him books about people who have a story that he can relate to about how they encountered God and found new life. You see, that's our privilege. That's what we get to do. So as we go into this week, again, just let me challenge you again. Think about your story. Think about the wonderful encounters that God has had with you when you have come to a point where you go, God, heal me. Heal me. And you've experienced the healing power of God.